right, so it's been a little bit of time since the toy fair. Let's be honest. The toy closet has been a little bit absent. I apologize. We have been pressed for time. No pun intended. But the reality is, there is one particular toy company that I wanted to recap, and this has been something we've been planning for a little bit of time. So I have Aaron with me from Jazwares. Thank you so much for hanging out, spending some time with me, getting to know all about you and what you do at Jazwares. So
Yeah.
welcome.
No, of course. I'm happy to thank you for the time. I'm always happy to talk toy. We had such a great conversation at New York Toy Fair that I'm glad we can part to it because there's so much to talk about, lots of things to be excited about.
Absolutely. No, it's my pleasure, and I'm grateful that we can do it. And I hope that the rest of the toy show went well for you. It seemed like there was a lot of positive talk and a lot of
Mhm.
excitement for everything that was revealed overall at Jazzwares, along with some certain Five Nights at Freddy's licensing that we have been very surprised with because, as we know, let's be honest, a lot of these licenses have been with a certain company for quite some time, and we have not really seen much in the veins of variety. So I think Aaron has come to the rescue with his team and has shown us some fantastic stuff at the toy fair. And we'll definitely, reconnect to talk a little bit about what that launch wave looks like and, what you're excited about from that wave. And maybe, I know that you spend a lot of time on social media connecting with the FNAF community, which is really awesome. And I see that there's a lot of questions that people ask,
Yes.
kind of, can we consider branching into some of the fanverse stuff? And, the world, the population is demanding more FNAF, which is always the case. And it's just great to see such a strong launch wave that you guys have lined up. But before we get into that world, I wanted to talk a little bit about you and somebody that has been with Jazzwares for, I would say, about 8 years or so, because
Yeah, just
technically
about
you
just about
were.
8 years. Yeah, 7 8 years. There was some temp timing there, if you want to call that official or not. But yeah, I've been at the company for quite some time.
That's really awesome. So, yeah, can you tell me a little bit about, maybe for our listeners, how you started? Because I know that you were a part of kind of like a sister company with Wicked
Yes.
Toys before you actually started with Jazzwares, right?
Yeah, so the long and short of it, it actually is an interesting story. It's not like I went in and did an interview and I did 3 rounds and all that stuff, which a lot of people get their jobs that way. Some people are poached from other companies. The way I got my job is it's a bit odd. So I was I originally so I went to college for film and clinical psychology, and I moved out to Los Angeles because I wanted to pursue a career in animation. I had worked on a lot of web-based animation. I had made a lot of friends that were a part of like the Newgrounds scene, and as the Newgrounds animators really started making like ripples in the animation industry proper, so much potential, especially in like the mid to late 2010s. We were like, oh my God, right? Like right now is like this new golden age with streaming picking up, animation show after animation show. Now's the time. So I moved out from Chicago. I went to DePaul University with a bunch of my friends, one of whom was an animator, another one of whom was a director of photography, and another of whom was a VFX artist. All three of which are working now like very steadily. So it was great. We all moved out and we moved to Los Angeles. And I had a bit of a hard time getting a job at a studio. Just because I was not an animator. I was more on the production pipeline side of things. My expertise is mostly in writing, but in a lot of animation, especially animation for Cartoon Network, animation for Disney TVA, is storyboard based. So I'm not much of an illustrator. I always tell all my coworkers, even to this day, you can ask me to do a little bit of anything, just never put a stylus in my hand. I'm not an illustrator. So I had a bit of a difficult time, but within my background in film, I was found ways to pay rent by editing listicles. I did a lot of editing for many YouTube companies that would do things like top 10 craziest fruits, or here's how the breakdown of the Ant-Man and Wasp end credit scene. I did some voice acting for that. I did some writing for that, but I was mostly an editor. The one that I will definitely always give a shout out to, because they were the best to work with. I love them. I think that their successes right now it's so exciting. I was an editor for New Rockstars, and New Rockstars does a bunch of like breakdown
Awesome.
content. They're
Yeah.
great. Always super, like they were always great to work with. But that's how I paid rent. And it just wasn't sustainable for me. It was, every single day was like, am I going to be able to have a job that's going to let me pay rent? And eventually I get a text from a friend who is a designer at a company called Wicked Cool Toys. Now, Wicked Cool Toys got the Pokemon Master License in about 2017, and she was one of the plastics designers. Incredible designer named Molly Womack. She texted me going, hey, you're a sound designer, right? And I had done some sound designing before, and I was like, yes, I have done lots of sound design work. Yes, well, I know full well that she does Pokemon toys, and I'm like a major Pokemon fan. And so she was like, hey, can you get me a quote to do a toy? Can you, doing sound design for a toy? You got it. Let me know what you need. Here's my quote. It's very affordable. And so I came in and I did some I recorded some voice acting. I did some sound engineering for them for a product that unfortunately never came out. But as I was leaving, I said, hey, by the way, if you need someone to like run you coffee, or if you need someone to like do paperwork for you, or literally anything, I'm quite free. And I get a call a week later from Molly, who got clearance, and she was like, hey, we do need someone to kind of help us do some busy work for design. It's not really creative, but it's work. And the toy industry, the toy process, there's a lot of moving parts. And so I was like, you got it. So I came in as a temp, and every day for 7 months was my, every week for 7 months was my last week. Okay, Aaron, this is your last week. You're going to be doing this. Well, we'll have you back. Okay, Aaron, this is your last week. We're going to have you do this. And over time, I got a little bit more bold. And when it comes to making product for a brand that has a passionate fan base, and this can be anything, Pokemon, Five Nights at Freddy's, Star Wars, anything, you got to do it right. And the group at Wicked Cool Toys, they knew their stuff. But it was a lot of designers who knew their stuff, and there's a lot of working parts, as I said, and there wasn't really anyone who was on more of like the business side on our end who was like, hey, like how, what is the strategy behind this? And like, it was a lot of leadership who needed to do other stuff. And I started getting a little bit more bold. After they would have meetings, I would, pull some of the designers aside and go like, hey, I think this could be a really good Pokemon to make a figure of. Hey, this could be a cool plush. And thankfully I wasn't too annoying. Eventually they were like, we should let Aaron take on more, like, not administrative, but like let his voice be heard more. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity. And so eventually I became the expert, the brand expert. And after about 7-8 months, I was brought into the office of Jeremy Padower, who at Jazwares is the chief brand officer, true mentor figure in my life and in my career. At the time, he was one of the owners of Wicked Cool Toys. He brought me into his office and he said, Aaron, you are not a designer. You were not on the design team. And that was the moment where I went, this is it. My last week really is like, this really is my last week. And he went, you're a brand person. And I was like, I don't know what that, I know what that means, but I'm like, what do you mean? And he went, you are not someone who should be designing toys. Like, again, it's not your skill set. You can do some design stuff. You should be presenting. You should be pitching. You should be doing the business end of stuff where you're strategizing around releases, meeting with retailers. I don't know if you can do this for anything but Pokemon, though. So what do you think about Halo? And I was like, Halo? I grew up playing Halo. Like I wasn't as big of truthfully, I wasn't as big of a Pokemon fan as I was, or a Halo fan as I was a Pokemon, but I was like, yeah, you know what? I can do
You
it.
sell them on it.
Yeah. And again, I grew up on it. I like the amount of times I stayed up until, the wee hours of the morning playing Slayer and Capture the Flag on, with my friends growing up. Like, it made sense for me to, like let's do it. It's a new adventure. And so I became an associate brand manager at Wicked Cool Toys. Not too long after that, we were acquired by Jazwares. And from there, it was very interesting. It was, assisting launching Halo. It was working on the Coco Melon line. So I did some preschool stuff, which actually harkened back to my foundations in animation. I worked a little bit on our Nerf line. I worked a little bit on the kind of very beginnings of Coco Melon, or not Coco Melon, sorry, Squishmallows, when we got that from Kelly Toy. But eventually there came a time where they needed someone to be the brand manager, not associate brand manager, of Pokemon. And that is really where I kind of stepped into more of a leadership position. I was overseeing Pokemon as a brand manager and then senior brand manager for about, I want to say 4.5 years. And now I am the senior manager over the Five Nights at Freddy's line. I actually was the lead person along with a VP, Greg Mitchell, to pitch for Five Nights, because when the opportunity came around for Jazwares, knowing that the license was up at Funko for master license, or that there was more of an opening, let's call it, I went to our leadership, having been a Five Nights fan since I was in college when the games came out. The first game came out. I went to my leadership and I said, you guys, you got to understand, this is something special. This is horror in the toy aisle, and the fan base is passionate like the evergreen brands that, we all know and love. Horror is not something that, is necessarily normal in toy. And so it took a little bit of educating of some members, while a bunch of other members of Jazwares immediately were like, oh yeah, let's do it. And so it was a delight to work on that pitch. And it was an even greater delight for us to have gotten the license. A really exciting moment where I was like, okay, I helped do the pitch. Give me the brand. Let me, I know how to cater this to the fans. Let me build my team. Let me, create the so to speak, Avengers at Jazwares to truly make something special for the fans, the way that I hope, from a legacy perspective, I assisted on with Pokemon, with that entire team, and with, the first few waves of Halo. So that is quite, bit of a long spiel there, but that is kind of how I got to be where I am now. I'm actually on a few other teams. Some stuff is under wraps, but my baby, my day in, day out is definitely that Five Nights at Freddy's business.
That's quite a story, and I have to say I love every minute of it, because again, it shows the passion in your heart, and the fact that you kind of, in a sense, you faked it till you make it. Like you
Yes,
took
yes.
it on, without, but you built it with confidence, and I commend you for that so much, because I think the first step to taking a bold thing like that is literally just having the courage to have that confidence. So it's a mix of both.
Mhm.
And in the world of toys, it's a weird industry, because it
Yeah, and it's
fluctuates
small.
so much.
Yeah.
But that too, it's so niche. Everybody knows each other,
Mhm.
and the most important thing is the ones that differentiate themselves are the ones that embrace the community. I will
And
I will
and
speak to that.
I do want to mention, and going back to the fake it till you make it thing. Yes, 100%. Since 2018, I have done sound design for over 20 toys. So if I were to ever get a call from someone saying you do sound design, right? I go, absolutely yes. Here's my resume. Yes, fake it till you make it. Don't incriminate yourself, and don't do anything that's
No,
like
of course.
not cool. But if you have it, because I was trained to do sound design when I was in film school. So I was like, yeah, you know what? Sometimes you just need that first break. Sometimes you just need someone to take a chance on you. And the cool thing to me, that the big moment of that story that I always like trying to have people focus on, is like what Jeremy saw in me. Jeremy, he knew what he saw in me, what he didn't see in me. He did not see a designer. He saw someone who could be a brand manager. And he told me, normally this is someone who, truthfully, like a lot of people have master's degrees that are in the toy industry when they do things as brand managers. I graduated in the lower end of my college class, but what he saw was passion. and he saw that, you know, I always say this, I might say it again, fans know when a circle is not a circle. And truly, I stand by that. That is with any evergreen brand. You always know when a circle is not a circle. You know when it's an oval. Hey, that's a little bit lopsided. That doesn't feel authentically like a circle. Hey, that doesn't feel like Five Nights at Freddy's. That doesn't feel like Pokemon. You can fake a lot of things. You cannot fake fandom. You cannot fake a care, a true, genuine care for, you know, what you work on, when you know that diehard fans are also going to be looking at what you do.
Very true. I think a big part of that too is, in the professional side of things, a traditional fan is not going to be versed in that world,
Mhm.
and a lot of that comes with not necessarily politics, but it comes with a lot of logistics, a lot of the business side of things, and sometimes the fandom aspect can get lost in translation. It happens with a lot of different toy companies, and the reality is you have a business to run,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, you're making toys for people that, embrace it. And the fact that you picked the license for a reason. So the fact that they took the time to find somebody that embraces the brand, it speaks volumes to the trust that Jazwares has in you. So I think it's awesome, and I'm excited to see more of what you're bringing. I mean, from what I saw in person and your energy for it, it's infectious, and I saw how excited people were, and I truly can say from somebody that saw it in person, the pictures can't do justice all the
Oh
time.
man, that's
Seeing is
great.
believing.
Thank you. You know, and I want to, uh, no team is an island, no individual. Like, and you know, I actually just gave a big presentation at the high school that I went to. I was invited to speak, and I always like, you know, as great as it is to be the person that's like, I get to brag about the cool work that, you know, I do, but that also my team does. It's such a team thing, and it's a partnership too. You know, we have a partnership with Striker Entertainment. We have a partnership, effectively with Scott Cawthon, and in a way there's also almost a partnership with the fan base. It's not, as you know, it's not like a contractual partnership, but like when you work on something that has this much care to it, everyone needs to care. Everyone on all ends needs to care, and it is this kind of beautiful, there's a beautiful elegance to it all, especially with what I've been experiencing on Five Nights, working with my team and my design team, the product development team, our procurement team. Right, there's so many moving parts. Everyone's got to care, and it's been really a delight to see everyone kind of assemble and mobilize to, you know, make the dream come true.
That's awesome. So the one thing that I will say tends to be a challenge in the world of Five Nights at Freddy's and merchandise
Mhm.
is the scarcity, and the
Sure.
fact that we deal with, we're at the mercy of retail exclusives.
Yes.
We're at the mercy of just keeping product on the shelves, online only aspects, and obviously it being kind of a worldwide phenomenon. Let's just be honest. Having Jazzwares have this license, your thoughts on, what you've seen, obviously with previous products you've worked with, but knowing the fandom and, you know, either seeing or not seeing the toys on the shelves, for those that are concerned with, when Jazzwares puts these toys out, is there going to be concern of volume? Like, are the toys going to be accessible? You probably can't speak to the retailers that you may offer. Is there thoughts of having it in multiple locations, or are we going to be at specific retailers, things like that?
So yeah, let me there's a few, you know, answers to those questions. So first and foremost, um one of the big focuses for me when I was on Pokemon is, I will try not to ramble. Here's the succinct way. I firmly believe that for a brand that has many characters, there is always someone out there whose favorite character is that character or that character or that character. There's no character in a beloved brand that is so, you know, underground that there isn't at least one person in the world who's like, that's my favorite character. You know, I firmly believe that for any evergreen brand, any truly beloved brand, and that includes Five Nights at Freddy's. My goal as a fan who tries to make product for fans is to ensure that that person can always get a figure or a plush, or hopefully both, figure and a plush, many different scales, yada yada, regardless, something of that character. And that doesn't just mean making the product, and that is that's a process in itself, right? Making sure the timing is right, making sure you're putting it out at the right time, right? It does have to be a business, and that's why it's like I have to care about as a fan, but I also need to be like a businessman about it too. You got to keep the lights on, right? Because if you keep the lights on for long enough, eventually the whole day runs and you will have everything. But you do have to keep the lights on. The answer on that is my prerogative is to ensure that that person is able to get that, whether it is today or tomorrow. I cannot promise it will be today. I cannot promise it will be tomorrow, but someday. Replenishing store shelves, making sure that, hey, if you miss Classic Freddy in the Endo series, is there a way, in the first few months, is there a way to get that Classic Freddy? Yes. My strategy, with the way that, I'm trying to plan things out, is that if you want a character in a way, they're or in a figure form or plush form, you should be able to get it, at least in one way throughout the year. It might be in a multi-pack in year 2. It might be in a big bundle in year 3. But I don't ever want there to be a situation in which one of my least favorite things that happen on Pokemon is sometimes I will hear like, hey, my kid really loves I'll pick a very random Pokemon, loves Togedemaru, right? Togedemaru is a generation 7 Pokemon from Pokemon Sun and Moon. It's kind of like Pikachu. My kid really loves Togedemaru. Okay, well, we made our Togedemaru figure in 2019. It's in this case 2023. When was the last time we put Togedemaru in the line? Now, I always try to make sure that 2 years does not go by where we don't bring that character back. It would be the same thing for Five Nights at Freddy's, just I think in a different way, because it is a horror property. Retailers do need to kind of be re-educated, but the great thing is Five Nights has stuck around for 10 years now, and the movie has really made people that are maybe cynical about horror and horror in the toy aisle to go, hey, this is a viable business. Hey, people really like this. So, that is one answer there. So like making sure things are available. And to kind of give you a secondary answer here, where can you find our products? I can't really go into absolute specifics in terms of what is offered where quite yet, just because, to be very transparent, right now is when, like, the time of recording is April 30th of 2025. Things are actually being shipped to store shelves very soon. Orders are being placed, that kind of stuff. So like things are up in the air right now, but we are very lucky that we have a great partnership throughout all of mass retail. So where can you find our stuff? Well, all goes according to plan, and I'm pretty sure things will. You will find our stuff at Walmart. You will find our stuff at Target, at GameStop, at Hot Topic, on Amazon, and more. Now, will it be the entire line? I would love that, but maybe not every retailer is going to have that much shelf space, right? But yes, we are getting a lot of support from our retail partners. I'm very grateful for that. And frankly, that might not have happened 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, etc. But what we've seen is Five Nights, the Five Nights craze, it's still happening. And with the second movie coming out, there's a lot of excitement around it from people who maybe aren't as familiar. And now I'll give you the third answer, exclusivity. So yes, exclusives are coming. What I would like to, I can promise very little, but what I can promise are my intentions and are my strategies. If a character comes out that is an exclusive, it might be a retail exclusive for like a specific time frame, but maybe not forever. Some things might be in perpetuity, but the goal is to ensure that when a character has a home somewhere, I'm gonna do like a totally like fake thing. I'm trying to think of like a store that's no longer
Circuit
around.
City.
Circuit City, classic Freddy 8-inch plush is an exclusive at Circuit City, right? The goal is for that to always be available at Circuit City year in, year out. And if it's not, revisit how can we bring this previous Circuit City exclusive to everyone. Regional things does get a little bit tricky, and that is something that I encountered on Pokemon, where it's like, hey, this thing was at Hot Topic exclusively in the US. When is it coming to France? I do have involvement in that. It does get a little bit harder because there are certain things like, oh, France doesn't like this character. Like, funny enough, like there's regional selections and favorites. But I will always have, and my team will always have our hearts in the right place in terms of like, hey, if this exclusive is not going to continue to be exclusive to this retailer, or if you can't get it in your region, we're going to try to find a way for you to get it in your region. And if they stop supporting it, we're going to find a way to bring that character or that figure, plush, whatever, back, so you can get it. Notice how I didn't make any, like, it will happen, but I can guarantee you we will always have the intention to do so, because the last thing I ever want is for someone to be like, again, my favorite character is Classic Freddy. I can't get it because of because the region that I'm in, or because the Radio Shack stopped supporting it. So that's the best I can do. But I do think that there's a lot of solutions to that potential problem.
Well, I think the intention alone speaks volumes for it, because truthfully, I think when people think about, for example, retail exclusives, the first thing you think is, all right, it's there for a week or less, and then it's never seen again, and it becomes a folklore where you have to go on third party, buy it at a scalped price and things like that. And I think the intention of having it sustainable, I guess, with the long-term vision of helping drive traffic to that retailer with that home, that's, to me as a business person, that makes the most sense, because why would Best Buy not want that? You're driving traffic because of your figure. They want to have it in stock. They don't want to have 5 of them and then that's it.
And sometimes it's also about relationship building, especially when it comes to a brand like Five Nights, but really any kind of brand that has a passionate fan base. And, a great example is like, if, for instance, I like, if a brand, for instance, like had like Come and Gone or something like that. This wouldn't be the case for Five Nights, but let's say like it's the return of a brand. There's a relationship building tactic when it comes to building retail partnerships, saying like, hey, we will give you this character as an exclusive, or we will give you this style as an exclusive. Will you support this other thing? If you take, if you get an exclusive 5-inch figure, will you take these 8-inch plush? Because what that means is, yes, there's the business side. There's we get more money, or we get more shelf space. We get to blah, 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 blah. The reason why I'm doing that means I get to make that character. That means that I get to also build a better relationship with Circuit City. So next year, when they see that the fans have flocked to Circuit City to get this character, or and the plush or whatever, they go, all right, what else do you have? Right? Like there, there's a lucrative side of it too, but it also, again, keeps the lights on, right? It allows us to continue to keep the lights on, which lets us do potentially more deep cut characters, more, stuff like that.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about characters at this point.
Sure.
We talked a little bit at Toy Fair. We talked about how the list is endless. There are the characters
with this brand, the list really is endless. Yeah.
And your mindset of being able to attempt to do characters that no one else has done, to give the fans that love those characters a chance. Is there anybody that you've thought about, that not necessarily that you're working on, but like as you got this option, you said, that's somebody that I want to eventually, pitch or anything like that? No secrets.
No, I mean, I can talk about my favorite stuff till the cows come home. There are characters I love. I love mediocre melodies so much. I really like pizza. A lot of the Pizzeria Simulator characters. The more like really side characters, tertiary characters.
Mr. Hippo.
I love Mr. Hippo. Mr. Hippo, it's so funny to me. Mr. Hippo to me feels very, important. That like I'm like, oh yeah, Mr. Like he's an essential character. Not like like the Egg Baby or Egg King or whatever the I always forget. I do forget some of the names. I do like the looks of some of them.
Right.
I can pretty much immediately say that and I don't want to use like I don't know if this was like the official name. I did see people calling this character Maestro Music Man. So in the Secret of the Mimic trailer, right? The big old Music Man. And for me, I'm wrapping my
Yes.
product manufacturing head around being like, what scale would that character be? Like what would we do if we did this version of Music Man? I love Music Man, DJ Music Man, Maestro Music Man, not like those, because like the anatomy of those characters are so weird.
Right.
Yeah, gosh. I think that the there's a lot of characters from the books that I think would be, I mean, like the twisted ones are so cool that like, and mind you, like we've seen product of the twisted ones, right? I believe Funko
Right.
has done twisted ones. I think U2's has done
Yes.
some twisted ones. So it's like this isn't unfounded. Again, I'm not like certainly not announcing anything. I'm not even hinting at things, just in terms of my favorites. The characters where like anytime a new trailer of anything comes out, I'm always going like, what's the character analysis breakdown? Like, hey, that mushroom mascot costume, animatronic, whatever you want to call that, that is really interesting. Asking myself those questions: how would that look as a plush? How would that look as a figure? I think let's say number one for me, if it's not Maestro Music Man, hands down, not even like, it's such an easy answer because to me it feels like there's a big demographic that wants this character. Tiger Rock. Tiger Rock 100%. I think Tiger Rock rules. Mimic Tiger Rock, right? There's a lot of variants there too, but like no, I want to, I would love to dig into the book characters, but again, it's the keep the lights on situation. It's like, how can I
Yeah.
slide in
Of
those? And
course.
then also like, what Scott wants, our licensor, but it feels almost unprofessional calling him that. He's the creator, right? He's the genesis of it all. But yeah, to answer your question though, I'm gonna say Tiger Rock.
That's a great answer because it's again, it
What
shows your love of the franchise because a casual is not going to know that unless you're reading the books. That's really cool.
what about you though? What is there like a favorite character?
I am a sucker for Fredbear. I think we talked about it a little bit. I love the lore behind the Bite of 83. It is it's really the Bite of 83, not 87.
Was that the bite of 87?
So I love the idea of this Fredbear animatronic, and I've always thought about like the toy form, like what that can be. And if you remember some of the Ghostbusters figures, the ones that like would have the mouth that would like you squeeze the legs and the jaw would
Mhm.
open. Like the first thing I think of like is Fredbear being able to do that, and just like you're not promoting the violence that ensues, but you are. And I think that could be a clever little but yeah, there's not enough. There's like Fredbear plushes out there. Like my son has
Mhm.
a couple of them, but I'm like, I want a figure. Like that'd just be
It's
cool.
interesting. It's an interesting the anatomy the of Fredbear, right? And like Spring Bonnie and like the and forgive me for like it's I know it's the Springlock mascot suits, if I recall correctly. It's not right, not animatronics, because
It's
they
not
were designed
animatronics,
for you to
correct?
put the animatronic endo in, but also you can slip in too, right? So what's so interesting is in the Atari 2600 graphic reminiscent flashbacks, visions, whatever you want to call them, right? The way that Fredbear's mouth is designed, to me, and this is like fan speculation here. I'm not like I trust me. This would not be like me being like, well, but I'm like, what is that mouth mechanic? Like, like in my head, I'm like trying to engineer, being like what does that look like? And I'm like looking at like the Rockstar animatronics, because they have that like cost reduced jaw like slider thing. I was like, oh, like I guess that would be. Could you fit a kid's head in that? Like, in from a practical sense, right? Like as like a true to form. But yeah, no, I mean, listen, the and again, I'm just going to call them mascot costumes, right? Especially what we're getting into with Secret of the Mimic, with like that workshop where you have like these look more like costumes. They don't look so much like animatronics. I think that it would be really fun to explore the potential of like how would you make a figure like that? You know, would you make it be built in a way that is different? Like we know what Spring Bonnie looks like. So yeah, no, great answer. Great answer. And like essential character in my eyes, absolutely essential character, one of the most iconic characters in the franchise. Certainly one of the most iconic characters for the lore of FNAF, right?
Absolutely. And you know, when you think about those two, there's so much room for you know, the world of the human characters that, you know, are mentioned more so than have kind of the visual stand. Because, you know, obviously it's about the animatronics and everything, but you know, Mr. Afton
Yeah.
is a man in
William,
a suit, you know, and
Michael, and Elizabeth, and Edwin. I mean,
yeah,
there are, and a lot of them we haven't like seen them. So it
exactly.
would be, and then there's like movie versions, right? Like
Right.
Michael in the movie. Would love to I love Josh Hutcherson. I love Josh Hutcherson, so I'd love to, would be fun
Future
one day.
Man's the best.
Huh?
Love Future Man.
Oh
Like
my
that's
God, Future
like
Man, Zathura, Bridge to Terabithia, Hunger Games, House Moving Castle. He's a voice actor in the dub of House Moving. I love him. He's great. He's awesome.
so is that something that if presented you would like to have the opportunity, which would be potential movie tie-in
Yeah.
figures versus, you know, focusing on the game? Because I know some companies tend to pick one or the other,
Yeah.
or you know, or only given an option for one or the other. But
So
obviously, as we're leading into that time,
we have the rights to everything, Five Nights
okay,
wise. As far as I know, I've read the contract a pretty good amount of times. Movies are included. We would want to make it different. I don't exactly know how we would do that quite yet because we're so focused on doing adaptational work of like video game versions of
right?
characters. But I mean, there are some real nuances with like Balloon Boy in FNAF 1 and Balloon Boy in FNAF 2 now, the movies, right? Based on the trailers, like the builds of the characters, that sculpt is different.
Yeah,
I'd want us to try to hit those nuances if we ever do approach that. I'd love to say when, but like, there's a lot of characters, a lot of grounds that we need to cover.
of
Yes,
course.
so there's absolutely interest there in the movie iterations of characters and even the movie, humans.
Okay, awesome. Now, you mentioned that a lot of the products are potentially in the process of being shipped to destinations. You mentioned initially, I believe we're looking at fall, right?
Yes. Yes. So
So
think,
are
think October time frame, I believe, is when people are really going to start seeing. There may be some stuff coming a little bit earlier.
I
Stay tuned.
asked because California tends to get things a lot earlier than all of us. So, you know, you start finding fellow toy
Yes.
collectors that are, you know, on the
Yeah,
West
well,
Coast.
so people will be like, "Here's the UPC. I found this at Target, right?"
You know, I know you're part
Oh
of
yeah,
it.
hey,
You
hey,
see,
hey. I
see it
you know,
all.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of I'm a fan of other stuff too, and I might be checking, making sure that like the SKU drop for this. Head to Target.
I mean, it'd be
Yeah.
great if you walk in and you're the first to see it, right? I'm sure you'd love that
Oh,
moment.
and that's by the way, like one of the one of the great. I think one of the best feelings I've ever had, professional, personally, whatever. I was I was visiting family in Ohio, and I like walked into a Target, and I always go to the toy aisle to just check out what's going on, what shelves are empty. And someone had picked up a girl, she was probably 7, 8 years old, that was like trying to convince her mom to buy her a Pokemon plush. And there was a part of me that was like, hey, you should totally let her, like, I would know. I'm one of the guys that helped make this. But then I'm like, no, I got to respect the balance. The mom seemed a little bit annoyed, but it was this magical moment for me where I was like, man, it goes back to that thing. Someone's favorite, right? Someone will cherish that. And that goes for Five Nights for sure. But yeah, no, it is so magical to see a product that you help make on shelf. It's like such a surreal experience. Be like, oh, I sweat and bled over that. Now it's out. It's finally, it's actually real.
No, that's awesome. And the fact that you've already had the potential to see that fruits of your labor over the years with the other brands that you've worked with. So, um, with Jazwares obviously covering a wide plethora of
Mhm.
other licenses. Obviously, I know you mentioned that there's some you can't speak of, but some of the existing that you have, is there any of those other brands other than Pokemon that you're a fan of?
Oh,
Like, let's say any of the anime stuff, or
yeah.
Squishmallows. Even we're all guilty of
I love
liking something that people wouldn't expect, right?
so funny. I actually don't have any squish within grabbing distance from me. I'm a massive Pokemon fan. I was always a massive Pokemon fan. I mean it was my baby for so many years, and funny enough, like so much of what I worked on, um, is still being coming out. Like it won't like the stuff that I at least like scheduled around and got cleared and worked with the designers on, which that team is just unbelievable. Still coming out. It's still going to come out until like the end of this year. No, here's how big of a Pokemon fan I am actually. So is this is a production illustration from season 1 of Pikachu of from the animated series. I collect very like limitedly, but I do collect animation cells.
That's
I'm a big
amazing.
fan of Pokemon. I am a big fan of Halo. We still do make Halo products. Some of the stuff I'm most proud of. It's our Halo product. I'm very lucky that I have gotten to work on a lot of the stuff that I love the most. I will say, because it did get announced and I'm so excited for it, and I only was able to be a little bit of a consultant on it. I am a huge Avatar: The Last Airbender fan, and Avatar, we're the new master licensee for. I don't know when that product
Awesome.
necessarily is coming out, but oh my goodness, I love that original series. I love Korra. That is like such a cool thing that like I've already reached out to that team and I'm like, hey, I would love some
I'm
figures.
here if you need me.
Yeah, right.
Right.
That's right. I'm here. There's some Squishmallow stuff that we worked on that I've gotten to be a consultant on that I don't think has been announced, but like I'm a big fan of some stuff that's like down the coming down. Anime wise, so funny enough, like I think of all of the anime licenses that we have under Total, right? I am not the biggest My Hero fan. I think the My Hero figures we've done are really good, especially for the price point. People forget that like you always got to think about how much money you're spending on some of this stuff, and like in a world where you have Figure Arts, right? That and some of those are hundreds of dollars. What we've done, especially for the price, looks amazing. Chainsaw Man. I love our Chainsaw Man figure. It is so cool. Again, for like a $17 or $16 collector figure, pretty unbelievable. That's and like I like a lot. I'm a fan of. Funny enough, I'm kind of a fan of AEW because I have now gotten to know a lot of the wrestlers because we're in vicinity of each other. So like
That's awesome.
I got to befriend like Danhausen, who's a great gimmick wrestler, sweet person too, like unbelievably nice. But it's like, man, like I'm meeting, I got to meet like Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes when he was a part of AEW, and that was like such a when we were launching Halo. Cody comes into our booth and he sees our Halo portion and he's like, I do LAN parties with like ex WWE wrestlers, and I'm like, this is crazy. Superstar, who I think is still right now the WWE champion. Cody Rhodes is like geeking out over our Master Chief helmet. Yeah, so like I'm a fan of a lot of what we work on, but like I gotta say that the top ones absolutely Pokemon, Five Nights at Freddy's, and I've been lucky enough to be working on and have worked on both.
Awesome. And I will say, when I left the booth that day, I was obviously already beyond satisfied with what was coming. And then I saw some of the new wave of the anime figures, and I'm a pretty big My Hero fan. I'm a big Deku
Nice.
fan. And
Yeah.
you guys putting out
Yeah.
a dark Deku, I cannot wait for that. Like, I
I
need it in my
actually was
life.
checking that figure out in our showroom today because I was like, man, this thing came out so good.
Yeah, I was blown away, and like I only got this statue because they don't really make figures of him. He doesn't even stand, like he's so bottom, he's like front heavy, so like
Mhm.
he's always tipping over. But I'm so excited to get that when that comes out. So awesome work from your team overall. But I'll ask one last question if that's
Sure.
okay.
Yeah.
If there was a license that was free And
I have
Jazwares
such
asked you,
keep going.
what would you love to pitch to the team next?
Okay. Oh man, I have two answers.
It's a loaded question, huh?
Okay. Can I give two? Is
You
that
totally
okay?
can. You
All right.
totally can.
Number one, like hands down, I think that no one has done this properly in toy. I think that the time is coming because a new game I think should be coming out soon. I think they're working on it. And the TV series is phenomenal. I am a diehard Fallout fan. I love Fallout. In fact, actually, here I'll show. I'm such a big Fallout fan that I ordered a Kit Bash New California Republic Ranger figure
Amazing.
years ago from an incredible Kit Basher. Looks like this was my whole thing where I was like, we could do this. This is real. Like this is an amazing, a really amazing Kit Bash. But like genuinely, I'm such a huge Fallout fan. More realistically, because to be fair, Fallout, it skews quite old. The show is very much still for like adults. New game does have to be coming out because retailers tend to care about that stuff. It's an easy answer. It's an easy answer. If it isn't Fallout, it's Dragon Ball. I was a Dragon Ball kid. I grew up on Dragon Ball and Pokemon. My cousin, my older cousin, who's effectively my older brother, he introduced me to Dragon Ball when I was, I think, 6 years old, and I think it changed my DNA. I think I was changed as a person. I would love to work on a Dragon Ball line, just because there's so many great characters, and to be fair though, I would also be like looking behind my back at like SH Figure Arts and being like, like, oh my goodness, like that's a hard one to kind of try and
Right.
top, right? Yeah.
Right. Awesome. I would love to see that. I mean, you think about the potential reality because of the anime line that you guys do. I know it's a different studio, but the sky's the limit, and I think you guys have proven great success with a lot of the lines that you've done that I'm familiar with. So I look forward to the future. I cannot wait to get my hands on all of these figures. I plan on doing unboxings, reviewing, and sharing and praising because I know I'm going to love them. So please
Well,
keep me in the loop.
I will well, first off, I mean, when a circle's not a circle, you also know when someone is like coming from a genuine place or not. I think especially for me, like, I interact with so many people, and listen, not everyone has to be like a big fan when I talk to them at a road
Right.
show or
Right.
Comic-Con or anything like that. You were one of the highlight conversations that I had at Toy Fair. It was a great conversation, but it was also like, no, you really care about this. I know your son
Thank
cares a
you.
lot about this too. Trust me, the appreciation is reciprocated on our end, on my end. You will definitely I'll be keeping you posted, and I'll make sure that figures and plush find their way to you and your son. More than happy to embrace the fandom, because like it's what makes it
Thank you.
fun, right? It's what makes this whole thing worth it, right?
Absolutely. And like I said, I think it speaks volumes to the passion that you have, not only for the brand, but, getting to know you more today, speaking about your history and the journey leading to where you are right now. And again, it started from something that, funny enough, I say a lot on social media, which is sometimes you just got to give somebody a chance. You
Yeah.
don't really know somebody's potential, and you were one of those hidden stars that they find, just from taking a minute and getting to know you. So
There was that.
congratulations on your success with that, and I hope to see that continued growth. And the day that post of Dragon Ball coming, I am going to be applauding to the skies for
He
you.
called it. He called it. Oh, what a dream! What a dream! But you know what? I gotta say, I'm so happy to be working on this brand, because like the way that the fan base, the fan base lets you know if you're doing something right or wrong. And I think that there should always be kind of like there's like a healthy level of like respect, fear, even a little bit, when you're making something that someone loves or a large group of people love. It's been very rewarding to see people's excitement, and I hope that we rise to the occasion. I hope that when stuff comes out, it is, it meets people's expectations, it exceeds people's expectations. But more than anything, I at least hope that it comes across that the people who made these toys, these plush, these figures, not only, did they love what they do, they cared. They care, and they that's like the number one thing that I like really hope comes across when you eventually get your hands on the figures and the plush. You're like, you know what, the designers, the brand, they all cared about it.
Absolutely. Once I saw the endo, and I had told you, I said that was a design that I had in my head. I said somebody's got to make an endo that, like, I was originally thinking, like, if you remember Play-Doh back in the day, it's thinking about you having an endo in a machine, you put the Play-Doh in
Around
and you get the FNAF endo covered, and then you can start putting other colors to the eyes. But I love it having in figure form because now it's also articulated. So
I
I'll take
have one
it
right
any
here.
day.
I have it right here. I grabbed one from the office. This is like my pride and joy here on the line. This is we're still fine tuning things, but yep, fully articulated. This is just the frame of Endo 1. But I'm really happy with how this has come out. I talked to the designers and I was like, yeah, this is we're getting to that final stage where this is like I can wave this thing around, it's not going to shatter, which is like a nightmare for me. It happened once on a Pokemon thing, but no, I mean, I think that there's real magic to it when you can start putting pieces together on a character, and then all of a sudden, I did this in the wrong order, whoops, all of a sudden you have a Freddy. I'm not going to do the full thing, but that all of a sudden you have a Freddy, and you have a Freddy that feels accurate. As you can see the endo's mouth on the inside, like I'm glad that you and I talked at length about that, being like, this is what it's all about. This is it.
Awesome, Aaron. Well, listen, I'll let you go. You had a long day today. I know you had a lot of work leading to all the success that's coming. I appreciate your time again. I hope we can definitely do this again in the future. You are always welcome. Maybe if there's another toy show in the near future. I don't know if you've ever heard of Sweet Sweet. I know that that's something that happens in New York.
Yes, we do stuff at Sweet Sweet. I don't think I'm going to be there this year, but I think I'm going to be there next year. But listen, anytime, if you ever want to chat, whatever, like my DMs are open, my door is open. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Benny.
Awesome. Thank you. Same to you. I hope you have a great day. And everybody, thanks for joining the Toy Closet. As always, take care and have fun.